Okay, let's talk about something intriguing. What if one of our favorite treats, chocolate, actually held a clue in the fight against one of our biggest health challenges? It sounds a little wild, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to follow the scientific trail connecting cocoa to the really complex world of cancer research. So let's just put the question right out there. Could a daily treat, a little piece of dark chocolate, really play a role in the fight against cancer? I know, it sounds almost too good to be true, and that's exactly why we have to be super careful and look at what the science actually says. Okay, but before we dive in, let's get one thing straight. And this is the most important part. There is absolutely no direct evidence that cocoa can treat or cure cancer, period. So this is not about some miracle cure, not at all. It's about following a trail of clues, really fascinating indirect clues.
All right, so if there's no direct proof, you might be asking, where do we even begin? Well, when scientists hit a wall, they don't just stop. They look for another way in. And in this case, that means following the clues where the science is already rock solid.
And that door, it leads straight to our vascular health, our whole network of blood vessels. The research on how cocoa affects our vascular system, it's not just strong, it's huge. There's a ton of it. And this is where the first real clues in our investigation start to pop up.
You see, for years now, scientists have been running clinical trials on these cool little compounds in cocoa called flavanols. They've been looking at what they do to our heart and blood vessels. And honestly, what they've found is, well, it's pretty remarkable. There's a mountain of evidence showing that these cocoa flavanols can do some amazing things. They can help reduce inflammation in our blood vessels, they can help lower blood pressure, and, this one's super important, they can make our blood platelets less sticky. Basically, they help the whole system just run a lot more smoothly. So how do scientists actually measure all this stuff? They look at things called biomarkers. Just think of them as little messengers or clues floating around in our blood. They tell a story about what's going on inside our bodies. And let me tell you, the story these biomarkers are telling about cocoa, it's a really interesting one. Okay, now we're getting to the really good stuff, the core evidence. By decoding what happens to these specific biomarkers when people consume cocoa flavanols, a really clear pattern starts to show up. Let's start with a big one. It's called CIAM1. Okay, fancy name, but think of it like this. It's a protein that basically makes the walls of your blood vessels sticky, kind of like cellular Velcro. It helps other cells latch on. Now, you need some of it for your immune system, but when you have too much, well, high levels are linked not just to heart disease, but also to the progression of several types of cancers. And get this, a really important clinical trial from 2023 found that cocoa flavanols could slash these SICAM1 levels by up to 50%. I mean, that's huge. We're talking about cutting the stickiness of your blood vessel environment in half.
But wait, there's another key player here, a protein called CD36. This one is on the surface of cells, and brand new research is pointing to it as a major driver of metastasis. That's the spread of cancer, and even a reason why some cancer drugs stop working.
So when you put it all together, the picture is really clear. Studies show cocoa flavanols can drop that platelet stickiness by about 25% and knock down those critical CD36 levels by around 20%. Plus, they have a big impact on something called MDA, which is a marker for cellular damage. So, all good things. So the takeaway here is pretty undeniable. The evidence for cocoa flavanols helping out our blood vessels is super strong. The data is consistent, it's significant, it's solid. But what does any of this have to do with cancer? That's the big question, right?
This is where we connect the dots. We're going to take all that strong evidence from vascular health and see how it might, just might, apply to the way cancer spreads. This is what's known as the Anti-Metastasis Theory. Okay, so look at this. On one side, you have what we know cocoa does to blood vessels. Makes things less sticky, lowers inflammation. On the other side, think about what that could mean for metastasis. If cancer cells need to grab onto blood vessel walls to travel and start new tumors, well, making those walls less grabbable could make their journey a whole lot harder, right? It creates a less friendly environment for cancer to spread. So here's the big idea, the main theory in a nutshell. By making our whole vascular system healthier, less inflamed, and less sticky, cocoa flavanols might just throw a wrench in the works for cancer cells trying to spread through the body. And look, this isn't just some wild guess. It's grounded in the actual data. Check out this quote from a clinical study. It's super powerful.
It says that key sticky markers, including that CD36 we talked about, were significantly lower after people had cocoa. And these are the exact same markers involved in cancer spreading.
So, what does all this mean for us in the real world? This brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole discussion. How do we actually use this information? It's all about thinking of cocoa as a functional food, not a cure.
All right, so what did the studies actually use? Well, the ones that got these big results were using daily doses of about 200 to 700 milligrams of flavonols. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 10 grams of a really good high flavanol cocoa powder, or maybe 35 grams of very dark chocolate, like 85% or more. And you gotta remember, not all chocolate is the same. The flavanol content can be all over the place.
So let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, and we've got to say it again, cocoa is not a cancer treatment. Number 2, the evidence is indirect, for sure, but it's really compelling. It lets us look at cocoa as a functional food, a food that does more than just give you calories. And finally, this is just one piece of the puzzle. It only works as part of a bigger, healthy lifestyle. It is definitely not a magic bullet.
And please hear this. This is the most important message of all. None of what we've talked about is medical advice. The whole point here is to give you information, to arm you with knowledge so you can have smarter, better conversations with your doctor or your oncologist. It's about helping you be an active partner in your own health.
So, when you follow all the clues, a clearer picture really does emerge. The science is not pointing to a cure inside a chocolate bar, but it does point to cocoa as a really powerful supportive food, something that can help create an environment inside our bodies that's just less friendly to disease.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. As we learn more and more about cancer, you have to wonder, how much of the battle is going to be fought in the pharmacy with amazing new drugs, and how much of it will be fought right here on our plates?